And then they also released the new agent Peko. She's also seasonal, which means we're not going to see her after the banner goes away. So, Peko's initial hunter effect, it says increase the assigned combatant's attack by 8%. So she's just a flat 8, I think it's 8 to 12% at max. When assigned combatant's card moves from graveyard to hand, gain 1 repairs complete. Repairs complete says plus 10% damage amount to the assigned combatant's attack cards, maximum of 3 stacks. Increase the damage amount of the assigned combatant's attack cards that are used against ravaged targets by 15%. Her active skill is a 3 ego point cost ability that says when an ally inflicts ravage, 1 overclock to the assigned combatant 1 time per turn. So this is basically, once you activate it, it will always occur. So long as an ally ravages, then they will gain, the assigned combatant will gain overclock, which is basically an increase in critical strike. It's 25% increased critical chance for 1 turn. So this is specifically for hunters. So it's really interesting to me too, because it's like she's very heavily focused on the ravage mechanic, which is exactly what Serenial is built for. However, this does not preclude her from being used on other hunter characters. Because the overclock occurs to the assigned combatant. The increased amount of damage from the assigned combatant's attack cards, as long as they're in that, as long as the enemy is in a ravaged state. Any cards that move from the graveyard to hand. So technically, if you're actually looking at it from a viewpoint of how much utility does Peko have outside of using her with Serenial, she would actually be really good with Renoa also, because that is also Renoa's whole kit. Short of the whole ravaged thing. But again, you can use Selena to ravage just as well as you can. Well, a little less so than Serenial, since like Serenial's whole kit is ravaging, because like all of her cards do it, whereas you have to Epiphany Selena into ravage, but it's very possible to do it with her as well. So using her in sort of a subcore to do additional ravage will allow Renoa to also benefit from all of Peko's passives, as well as her active ego skills. So it's actually really interesting to me that like sometimes you get partners that are very specifically built for one specific playstyle and only that playstyle, and no one else is really gonna make sense of that. Like that's basically what happened with what's her name? Itsuku. Itsuku basically is very, very, very specifically built for Chizuru. She does not fit very well like with any of the other psionic characters. Like you could in theory do something with her and Tressa, but Tressa's very focused on zero cost cards. Doesn't do a ton of multiple hits. In fact, I think she only has 1 card that does multiple hits, and you have to Epiphany it into 3 hits. So yeah, Itsuku was very specifically made only for use with Chizuru, which makes her not as popular amongst a large portion of the community. A lot of people didn't even want to roll for her, because they're like, she's just for Chizuru and she's not as good as like the unfortunate piece of she's not as good as Lillian, the 4-star just absolute beast of a striker partner. Assign combatant attack cards with cost 1 or less deal 10% damage. There's a lot of 1-cost cards in Chizuru's kit. When the assigned combatant uses a skill card, which she has quite a few of, 10% increased attack card damage for 1 turn stacks up to 3 times. So if she uses 3 skill cards, she has an additional 30% attack card damage for 1 turn. And then Light of Judgment, draw 100% damage to all enemies. Draw one attack card when you assign combatants with cost of equal to 1. So, like, Lillian was, like, the go-to. Everyone's like, nah, Lillian's the GOAT for strikers right now. Like, she is absolutely putting in the work for strikers. So it's hard to replace her in most cases for strikers right now. Short of having Scarlet. Like, Scarlet's also really strong. Because you're basically focusing her passive in, okay, yeah, so my assigned combatant has done multiple attacks back to back to back, so now she's getting stacks of focus, which means she's going to just start doing crazy amounts of extra damage. So, like, Scarlet's just good in general for almost all of the strikers, but again, she's a 5-star, so you'd actually have to try to roll for her. Whereas Lillian shows up pretty regularly just from regular pulls, so it's entirely possible that you have 1 or 2 of her sitting around that you're gonna do stuff with. So it's very interesting. But yeah, so like Itsuku kind of fell apart, which is why a lot of people were just kind of like, no, I'm good. But with Peko can actually be used with other hunters. So like she's viable enough that it would be worthwhile getting her, even if you don't have Serenial. If you are looking for a banner partner, you could do worse than Peko. Like, she's good. And I think she'll play very well and very nicely with the other psychics.